Live from San Jose, California, in the heart of Silicon Valley, it's theCUBE, covering QuickBooks Connect 2016. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff Frick and John Wall.
Well, welcome back here inside the San Jose Convention Center. You're watching theCUBE, the SiliconANGLE TV flagship broadcast where we extract the signal from the noise. We're live here at QuickBooks Connect 2016 along with Jeff Frick. I'm John Walls as we wrap up, and it's happy hour time,
That's
Jeff.
Right.
Everybody is happy now,
everybody's
right?
got something catching up on the
Watching
World Series
over here, and obviously this is a great time of day for us to sit back and kind of reflect on what we've seen. Malcolm Gladwell on earlier today, just an exceptional guest, and I love the fact that here's a guy who can make people in this day and age of 140 characters, he can make us stop and think. And he did that today with the food for thought. We'd heard about the advantages and disadvantages of small business, and playing to your weaknesses, compensating for your weaknesses, and turning them into strengths. So it was just really exciting to talk about.
The compensation learning, and he followed up on that in his keynote address, and really talking about people that don't have all the advantages, often do the harder work to make up for those disadvantages, and in fact, it's those behaviors over time that deliver results. I think he said a huge number of founders that he's interviewed, successful founders, had dyslexia, and he said as he interviewed them, they succeeded because, not in spite of that condition, because they learned to be team players, they learned to communicate, and they learned to kind of overcompensate for those deficiencies. So really interesting. He always gets to kind of the personal angle and the really human factor behind the curtain that you don't necessarily know. And of course, as he said many times, 10,000 hours, it's a lot of hard work. They only seem like overnight successes because you weren't paying attention for the first 14 Fleetwood Mac albums before
and
rumors
that was,
came out.
Yeah, that was a message during his keynote address this afternoon. He got off the stage just about an hour ago. That really resonated with the attendees here, is that Fleetwood Mac, for one example, was a band that we know from the Fleetwood Mac album, the Rumors album, one of the greatest sellers of all time. We think they were a sensation, but they had 14 previous albums that were abysmal failures. and so they could relate to the small business owner, understanding that there are very few overnight successes, that it is a methodical process, sometimes tedious and laborious, but that if you do understand what your strengths are and your weaknesses, and you compensate for them accordingly, and stick to your plan, that you have a great chance for success.
Yeah.
And I think that really hit home. Brad Smith, same way today. CEO earlier today, talking about that, about the keys to success. And I think again, they understand their target audience here is that it's a small business crowd that is looking for tools and looking for resources, and why QuickBooks is here to help them.
Another theme that we cover over and over, John, at all the events we go to is founder-led companies. And we were really blessed to have Scott Cook come on, started this company 30 years ago at the kitchen table, watching his wife struggle to pay the bills, and really built a checkbook register. And now look what it's become, through really because of his passion to help small business. And he said it multiple times here on this set, and you could see it in his face, that he really wants to transform the world through the power of enabling small business to create great companies, hire people, deliver great technology, and it just comes through and through. And even though his role has changed, he's no longer actively the CEO, you can tell from all the people that we had on and some of the people that are no longer with Intuit that came by to shake his hand, that culture is very, very strong. And we see that time and time again for so many successful companies, where that founder culture remains, and the passion towards their mission is so true.
Yeah, you raise a great point, because as can be the case, it gets diluted over the years as the influence of the founder might wane a bit. But in this case, Scott's still very active, and the ascension on the executive ladder has very much carried on and embodied that culture of service, right? Of we first, not me first. Right. And you get the idea when you talk to clients here, we talk to customers, when you see how they respond to the keynote addresses, when they listen to the various presentations, it is very much a community of kindred spirit.
Right.
These folks are very much involved and engaged, and they're really invested in one another. You see that through the partnerships. We just talked to Terry Hicks from Infusionsoft just a moment ago. Same thing, that they understand that there is a greater value to creating good for a community and doing other people good than it is just for the solo purpose of that company, for the sole purpose of one company.
Right.
And I've been impressed by that today. That's really struck me, is that when you see that kind of, that thread carried out over the years and then executed on a daily basis,
Right.
you know, you're going to have a pretty good thing going for you.
Yeah, I love Brad's keynote this morning where we said it a number of times, I'm more interested in your problems than my solution, and you really see it coming through and through. But then as we're here, there's such a consistency in the theme that we see in so many shows, John, that we go to.
Yep.
One is really cloud, mobile, these big mega trends and how they've impacted things, and now people are comfortable with cloud. You put the software in the cloud and deliver it via mobile. Now you can deliver tremendous power to the user wherever they are, however they want to engage with the application. The second thing is the community. It's a passionate community around enabling small business, which we've heard from Terry Hicks and some of the other guests, but really, as somebody said, I think in the keynote too, most of the smartest people are not in your company.
Right.
They just can't
That's right.
be, they just can't be. So to build a platform that enables other people to fill in the gaps, the specialization, the localization, the little micro segments, whatever that may be, the CRM as Terry talked about, to fill in on that platform really creates a 1 + 1 = 3 type of equation and puts the power in the small businessman or woman's hands of all these engineers, all this talent, all this development delivered via the cloud to my phone that I can leverage to hopefully free me up to spend more time doing what I got in the business for in the first place, which was my passion about cars or bikes or wine, or we've seen so many examples where I was making purses to really enable the small business dream. And I think that's the other really feel-good thing about this show, is it's still about the small business entrepreneurial dream.
Right, and we heard it from a gentleman from Africa today, Derek Taanga, talking about the global soap project that he started because inspired by the waste of hotel soap in Philadelphia. But he talked about the American spirit, and I think really touched a lot of hearts and minds when you heard this gentleman who immigrated from Uganda talking about this pioneering, can-do American spirit and why it so much impacted him and how he hoped it still impacted the attendees here on a regular basis. And while we might look at ourselves as a society and talking about this from a corporate standpoint, and we see all the warts, we see all the problems, here's a gentleman coming from the outside, looking at starting from the very bottom of the barrel and building up a global business now and saying, only in America, and it really is true, and everybody here captures that spirit, and it certainly is inspiring to see.
Yeah, and the other piece I want to touch on was Vinay Pai talking about being an engineer and loving engineers, like geeking out with engineers, going in, what they call it, the follow you home, which they used to do with QuickBooks all the time. You get these surveys, can you come in and just work on QuickBooks and we just want to watch you. But even in the commercial products, he talked about we follow engineers home, we hang out with them, we watch the way they interact with the product, and really spend not a lot of time worrying about the design, but more time in delivering and then executing on that delivery, changing that delivery based on customer behavior, and just moving the ball forward. It's a great story and one that really seems to be picking up momentum now, enabled by cloud and mobile in this community to kind of take it to the next level. It's not a desktop application anymore.
Well, we are not going to follow you home. We're going to let you go, get a good night's sleep, but we do expect you to be back with us tomorrow here on theCUBE. We'll be kicking off at 10:30 Pacific time, 1:30 on the East Coast. We'll be here throughout the day with another great array of guests to join us here on theCUBE as we continue our coverage of QuickBooks Connects 2016. For my colleague Jeff Freck, I'm John Walls, and for all of us here at theCUBE, thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you back here in San Jose tomorrow for more coverage on theCUBE.